the fact that, look, this could point to even more difficulty, right, in terms of the realistic numbers as to food insecurity, amongst other things in the country. Let me start with you, Prosper. Seeing something like that, what did it point out to you as an ordinary Ghanaian?
Well, good morning to your viewers and listeners. I think generally it's a demonstration of a failed system, because you have a product like KFC.
The way Ghanaians love
you have a product like KFC which shouldn't ordinarily be serving as a luxury commodity, but the perception around it makes Ghanaians feel like KFC is it's a luxury commodity. But rightly so, like you said, this is a demonstration of the food insecurity we have in this country. Data from the Statistical Service, as published some time ago, shows that the food insecurity has increased from about 31% to 38.1%, from 35 to 38.1%, which shows that a population at about 12% or so of the population, that's 12 million so of the population, are facing food insecurity. And so generally, this should raise concerns for government to tackle some of these things. And it's also raised a concern. I heard you, together with other colleagues, initially discussing how Inko Kitikiti could have mitigated some of these things. I think if the bets were given out and properly, so the policy had been rolled out well, we wouldn't have a situation where probably if people wanted to eat chicken, they would have queued at KFC there. But they also had a responsibility of care to ensure that those who patronize their services there, because even if it's a promo and you reduce it to 1 cedi, someone is using his money to buy. And so you have a responsibility of care to ensure the safety of your customers. You are not operating on an island, you're operating in a country that's governed by rules and regulations. So you need to ensure that the safety of your, of your customers, the citizens, are protected. You see, but it also gives a broader perception that we are not learning as a country. Few months ago, we had the Elwak situation, the stampede, where about 6 or so citizens died. And so if you have a situation where Hisense, I'm not trying to belittle anyone's product or cast aspersions on anyone's product, but we have a situation where Hisense has been running promo for some time now. We've been seeing the numbers, and you know KFC too is going to do similar thing. We could have preempted some of these things to ensure that proper measures are put in place. But I think to a large extent, it gives an opportunity for us to have a broader conversation on how some of these things need to be tackled. We spoke about the stadium disaster. Every year we celebrate it, we honor those who have passed, and
May 9th,
then it goes on like that. The Elwak situation too, we may remember them, and to go on like that. We're just probably fortunate that we've not heard of any casualty that has been recorded, but the KFC as a brand has a duty of care to ensure that their customers are protected. When I come to TV3, for instance, or 3FM, you have a duty of care to ensure that I'm protected here. No one will just walk into studio here to attack me. It's all part of it. So KFC needs to know, and every organization needs to know, that whoever patronizes their services or whoever engages their services, they have a duty of care to protect the people. What we saw, obviously, you may think is good for businesses, but they also needed to protect their customers.
Right. Prosper, thank you. Doc, just quick thoughts as well in relation to that subject matter, and then we can get into some other matters.
How quick you want my thought to be? Thank you very much. Well, once again, good morning to all of you, and good morning to Ghanaians. I take the platform to say a word of greetings to the NDC family, especially His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Before I comment on that KFC issue, I would like to make a reference to Thomas Edison, who invented light bulb in 1879, who has a patent right to sell bulb. The bulbs you are seeing in this room all over. It's just the same way as KFC has done. A system, economic innovation and prosperity system that need to grow in terms of development of either food and beverages, either hardwares, either in any innovation, there must be what we call rules and regulations. And the bottom line is that institutions are game changers of an economy. So if we take, for instance, KFC to be a game changer in Ghanaian economy in terms of providing nutrition for citizens and as well as generating revenue for government to get their tasks and all that. It simply means that there must be consideration in the areas of corporate governance. The reason is that before decision of the promotion, there must be responsibility of the KFC management to do consultation with security agencies, stakeholders, and make sure that that promo does not affect the masses. 2, I also derive that operational risk was not put in place. Operational risk management was not put in place to make sure that even announcing the fact that the park is 15 Ghana cedis already should send a signal that you're going to have a number of people beyond the normal buying system that you have, that you walk into KFC and buy on normal times. But this is the price is a change already in bringing more people, increasing the volume of those who purchase. So that also has not been taken into account. And then public safety. When we come to public safety, it's not a mere thing. It is not just customer behavior issue. It's a security issue. And further contestation by KFC should have been done to be able to circumvent this bad circumstance. And from economic inference point, I would like to state that as a country, this would tell that these indicators, for instance, the KFC scenario should give us the leverage that household purchasing power and affordability is low. And then also, one critical thing is that the poverty inequality, even within the poverty itself, there are even deeper inequality among Ghanaians. And that must be addressed both by government and precautionary discussions has to be made by citizens of this country to resolve those issues. And this is not about political divides. This is a state issue that we have to solve. Like I said, economic institutions of economics and innovation and prosperity must be backed by a huge law framework that bind everybody to be able to go through the procedure, capacity, risk management, production, and all that. That is why my host, I thought of government having an economic intelligent development unit where every indicator from each sector will seek to address this kind of problems. Thank you very much on that subject. Mark.
Right. Interesting thoughts. These are just quick thoughts in relation to one of it was an interesting event from the weekend.
Definitely. And just from this chicken fracas, we've been able to expand the tentacles of the conversation to talk about purchasing power, the economy, as well as, the poverty index. So it's not even just about the chicken and the pandemonium. I think we've been able to tease out certain things around this issue. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Hisense, over to you.
Well, over to them in quite some fairness. We're going to switch lanes and get into the outcome from the NPP's regional executive elections from the weekend. I'm going to take us to a number of places where a number of the persons who emerged victorious were speaking. We're going to start off with Kwame Bafu, also known as Abronye DC, and a host of others. And then I'll return in studio and we'll ask the question whether or not this changes anything in terms of the party's fortunes and how well they're able to galvanize going forward.
2028, measure money number. So 2028, the Montreal names a mayor wonders. Okay, now we're going ready. The Bayer Regional Youth Organizer, the catcher almost say a Bayer wonders. I will have. At the Motis, I see you can see Ghanaians and a Warine Bono in Anna. No, a general secretary. Yeah, we need 26 from I was Ecosi at the yeah, we need 26 for 30%. It's in chat in the Munio. They catch almost a wonders a year 2016. Chat in that year, but yes, I won this with 2028.
I would like to say thank you to all our constituency executives, CHESCON, all the Council of Elders, Council of Patrons, and all others who came in here to vote. I want to express our sincere gratitude to all of them for having elected us to lead the new Patriotic Party in the next 4 years in the Eastern region. This election and this victory, to me, is a victory of the new Patriotic Party. The first point of call, our profound agenda now is to find a way to unite our party together, to bring everybody on board, to prepare our party for victory in 2028. That is the task ahead of us. I know it's going to be an arduous task, but yes, we are prepared to go on and grab the wheel and get the job done.
But beyond the cell.
We've been doing this for quite long. I've been around for 24 years, through the polling stations to the region. This election wasn't different. I expected more, but you know, the delegates have done well. They say I have 177 out of 302. That's the margin. The next thing is to unite the party. Nothing than unity. I agree with him perfectly. We have the strategies, we have the experience, we are fearless, we are accessible, and I think in the coming days, NGC will be in trouble.
So those are some executives, right, who emerged victorious from there. I'm going to have us hear Bernard Okoboy as well speak after he emerged Greater Accra Regional Chairman.
We thank the Almighty for victory. Then secondly, I have to thank all the constituency executives. They've shown a lot of love. I went there with a very genuine message that I'm going to be a servant leader. I'll be close to them. And I think the message went down. 488 versus 173. It's got almost 3 times. So I think the endorsement is overwhelming and the message was clear. What I told them was that we have to come together, be unified so we can work towards power. Not power to lord over others, but power to create opportunities for the youth and to secure the future for our elderly. And so I just want to greet my opponent. My opponent, I always say, is my mother's classmate. So he's a father. He is not my adversary. He is not my target. The target is to try and criticize, to analyze the doings of this government and make sure that we work hard so that December 2028, Al-Hajj, Dr. Mahmoud, can be the president of this republic and lead Ghana into the next phase of transformation and jobs for the youth. And so I think so far, everything was smooth, with the exception of a few hitches. The hitches makes the excitement. And I'm happy that largely we have conducted ourselves well. Let me also thank you, the media, for the coverage. Accra has a new leader. Accra has a new direction. Accra has a new energy. We are going to work get close to Ghanaians, those especially in Accra, understand their issues, and work towards providing solutions to our issues. That is what I can say for you.
That's Bernard Okoboy. After all was said and done, I'm going to walk you through who emerged victorious where within the regional setup. But after all was said and done, the regional leaders met Dr. Bawumia, right, who is the party's flag bearer, and there were some comments in relation to that as well, as to executing a plan for victory come elections 2028, amongst other things. And here is what was said. If I can just get that for us briefly, in relation to what was said when that meeting did transpire from over the weekend.
It's a very great day. We have the newly elected Greater Accra Regional Executive, led by the chairman, Okoboy, Dr. Okoboy. Let me congratulate you all, and also congratulate the constituency chairman who are here. We've all fought a solid battle, and you've been here. I know Dr. Okoboy very, very well. We are very good friends. He's a good man. He's unified. And he's very humble, if you know him. And I believe that he is going to really bring us a lot of seats in Greater Accra. The goal for all of us, is to win the 2028 election. This is just a stepping stone towards winning 2028. As a party, we have been engaged in an exercise of reorganization. We've had our polling station elections, our electoral area, we've had our constituency, we've now had our regional elections, and we will culminate that process on October 3rd with the national elections. And therefore, at the end of that, the party will be in a good position to have that vehicle that drives us to victory in 2028. So there's a lot of work ahead of us, and we are going to do that work in unity. If we are united, I'm telling you, we will win 2028. That is the key ingredient for victory. It's unity. And that is what I want to really plead, that this election is over. You've had competitors. Let us come together. And I believe in what Dr. Okoboy has said, that he would do everything to bring everybody and use everybody's talents. Because if we keep our talents, at home or in the cupboard, it doesn't help the party. We want to use everybody's talents to get victory for the party.
So that's Dr. Bawumia speaking as well. I'm going to start with Prosper because he's a member of the NPP and it was their elections. But just quickly, let me run you through the list of winners, right? I have that on. Mention you can go to 3news.com and you see that for yourself. So Ignatius Kwesi Frifa is the NPP's Western Region Chair. Alhaji Idrisu Sulemana is Savannah Region NPP Chair. Kwame Bafo Abronye is retained the Bono Region Chairmanship. Bernard Okoboy is for Greater Accra. Odenoho Kwekuapia is the Ashanti Regional Chair. Jeff Konedu Ado has been retained as the Eastern Regional Chair of the NPP. Joseph Kobena Esibu has been retained for the Central Region. Robert Safo Mensah has won in the Ahafo region. Mohamed Batima Adam Samba, chair of the NPP in the Northern region. Alhaji Hussein Nuruddin is chair in the Northeast region. Elvis Figo Awenikai is Upper East region NPP chair. Makafu Kofi Wanya is a Volta region NPP chair. amongst others. Prosper, let me start off with you. You've crossed one hurdle. Perhaps October 3 is when the last one will be cleared. But does this position the party now towards that final hurdle? And we were hearing the flag bearer say that, look, the goal is to win elections 2028. Does this set you on the path towards that?
Most certainly. I think this is part of our reorganization processes, and I'd like to first congratulate all winners and wish contenders also very well, because it was a good exercise that we had over the weekend. It was violence-free. There was no incident of vote buying, and so this is a good step towards victory 2028. Generally, it was a fair election, and the results across board is a clear demonstration of what the party at the base there wants and what the party wants to work with towards election 2028. So in the early stages, I would say yes, this is a good step for the party towards victory 2028. But most importantly, we need a united front for the 2028 general election, because results studied from our 2024 general elections showed that a chunk of our base didn't go to vote. They were disgruntled. And so we need to consolidate all our base, all our efforts towards winning election 2028. So generally, it was a fair process. It was a peaceful exercise. And once again, congratulations to all the winners.
Those are preliminary comments. I'm sure we'll begin to get into a bit more. Doc, quick thoughts as well in relation to what it is that we saw from the weekend, and then we can begin to go into the numbers as to what the voter turnout was like in 2024 and all of that.
Well, from my perspective, I think on several times I had mentioned that the NDC is not perturbed by any political strategy that the MPP would deploy, whether after the reorganization or in 2028 election. We are well experienced. We have the capacity. We have the strategic management skills. We have the know-how of the politics of Ghana over the years, and we are sustainable enough to match them in 2028. However, I have to state clearly that the reorganization of the MPP is necessary, because we don't want to go into competition with a scattered reorganization of the opposition party. If they've done it well, it is good for them. If they don't do it well, it is bad for them. And they must know that they have a very big time, Herculean task ahead of them. What I see is that to be able to win back the structures that you have destroyed over the years, the element of your own party members, it's also there. There's an internal work to be done. You have to build confidence in the economic indicators that you have let ajar, which, excuse me to say, today is not a time for debate. It's just to acknowledge the political trend of what you have done. And I must say that if the elections are peaceful, as my opponent has stated, it is good for the democracy of this country. If it is not done well, the laws of the state will be applied to each and every political party that refuses to go through the political processes of election in a very disciplined manner. Top of my voice, I always say that a country that will develop will not be totally based on discipline. If the society is not disciplined with the laws and regulations, we are failing the institutions. We cannot achieve what we want to achieve for the development of this nation. So it is important, and it is credible enough that as a political party, any promise or statement that you put out there You need to fulfill it. And that is what the current government led by John is being led by John Dramani Mahama. We are seeking to do so that at the end of the day, we'll be accountable in 2028 and win the election to continue the good work that we are doing.
Right. I'm going to go for this break. Or Helen, just quick thoughts before or after I return from the break. So I'm going to go for this break. When we return, then we begin to go into the numbers a bit more, right? Because we've seen Okobo in the Greater Accra region. We've seen Abronye in the Bunu region. We're seeing Koka in the Ashanti region. The Ashanti and then the Eastern regions are pretty much like where it all goes down for the NPP. In the Ashanti region, it wasn't great performance, even though that was still where you got the chunk of your vote and all of that. So when I return from this break, we'll get a bit more into those specific details here on the show. This is the 3FM Sunrise. Please stick and stay with us. 9. There's an interesting graph which I want us to start off with in terms of the conversations here on the show. It points to where the NPP got its share of votes from, regional basis, from the 2024 elections. I'm going to start off this way, right? So we'll look at where the votes were from for Dr. Bawumia or the NPP in general, and whether the changes in positions means anything going forward. 29.4% was the share of votes they got from the Ashanti region. It was the most, almost twice as much as any other region could give them, and yet still the NPP or the analytical approaches that look, the individuals did not turn up in their numbers to vote as would have been expected. In the Greater Accra region, it was 14.6%. In the Eastern region, it was 10.6%. And then Central, Northern, Western, Bono, Northeast, Bono East, and Western North as well. I have for Upper East, Upper West, Uti, Savannah, and then the Volta region in that light. Prosper, I'm going to start off with you again. Let's start off with the Ashanti region. Coca is your new regional chair. What does this mean in terms of galvanizing the base and getting them to come out in their numbers to want to vote for the NPP? If what we saw in elections 2024 is anything to go by.
All right, so Coca's name became predominant on the scene on the last VAT1 primaries they had, where he contested with Chairman Wontumi, and it was a fierce contest. And so looking at the results from what we've seen over the weekend, it shows that generally the delegates believe that he will be able to marshal the forces for us in the, in the Ashanti region. And so this is a clear indication that the base of the party in the region are really behind him. He gave his close contender, that's Kobna Kokofu, a very big margin. That shows that truly the base of the party is solidly behind him. And I think looking at the other executives that were elected to help him work in the region, it gives a strong indication as to the direction of the party. A very young and youthful executives that were elected for the party. When you look at our national organizer, our regional organizer there, Kwakwa, when you look at the comms officer there, and obviously the youth organizer obviously needs to be a youth. But when you look at the broad-based, election in the Ashanti region, those who have been elected, it gives a strong indication as to the direction the party is going. Because when you take someone like Kwakwa, he contested with Rafsa Akodie, who was the immediate past youth organizer in the region. And so for the delegates in the region to entrust the organization of the region in the hands of Kwakwa shows the understanding they have, the direction they want the party to go. And so they believe that, yes, together with other executives there, together with the constituency executives, together with the police station executives, we will be able to marshal our forces in the region there.
There's a suggestion that, in the lead up to this, there were concerns, albums and what have you, who has a right to vote and all of that. Based off on what you in the NPP, and I say you in the NPP because you're the party individuals. So there are some who are still NPP members who are sitting on the fence and are aggrieved as a result of happenings from the past. Do you see that new leadership being able to bridge that gap and to get persons to get onto the fold again? Because it's been said so many times that if your supporters turn up in their numbers, all you need is Ashanti and then Eastern regions to have won the national elections.
You see, when you look at the election, the reorganization of the party in terms of election from the police station, generally this time around it has been quite peaceful. Unlike previous years, we didn't have much of a situation where people complain about album. There were few issues that were ordinarily resolved. That's why it generated generally into the constituency elections and the regional elections. There wasn't much of an issue. And this time around too, there wasn't much of a fashion where you say this person belongs to Camp A or Camp B. You saw the spokesperson for the flag bearer, Dr. Gideon Boaku, in Asante Otchere campaigning for Coca. You saw elements who are also very close to the flag bearer also campaigning for, how do you call it, is close contender Kukufu. So it shows that generally the party is moving in the right direction. It shows that everyone is coming on board. If obviously you are aggrieved by past incidents, the current incident should tell you that the party has turned a new leaf. Everyone is coming on board. You can't cry over a sports milk. You can't do that. We all may have one or two issues that had happened in the past, and if that's the situation, then we may fold our arms and not do party work or ensure that the party comes back to power. Yes, there may be issues, but it's better for your party to be in power than to be an aggrieved person in opposition. It doesn't help anyone. We believe strongly that everyone needs to come on board, given what has taken place over the weekend. And it's not only in Ashanti region, when you look at other regions too as well. So we believe that whoever may be aggrieved, yes, you may have genuine concerns for which reason you are aggrieved. Everyone may have one or two reasons for which they are aggrieved. But we believe that when we all come together, we present a united front, a strong force that will rescue power for the party come December 2028.
Right. Doc, let me come to you as to if that is a similar sense you catch from this reorganization bid by the NPP. And then we'll get on to the phone lines as well and speak to Dr. Jonathan Asante Otchere.
From my point of view, I think that strong political
3FM
internal unity is highly needed for NPP to ravage these percentages. If you look at the statistics even, it's showing clearly that the MPP has a lot to do in terms of performance indicators. For policy, I must say that they didn't do a lot to research structure their promises, the way they promise citizenry, the way they promise their own members. And evidence will show largely in the general elections, even this evidence are showing in the elections they've done so far, the presidential elections, the regional elections, and then coming to constituency elections. I want to put on record that you may perfectly have, constitute an election for the regional executives. They need to be as sweet as the word. But there's a huge work down the grassroots for them to do. If they are sensitive to the plight of the people at their grassroots, they will know that, yes. But I believe, looking at the bigger picture as an NDC communicator, I believe that hugely the MPP's performance in 2020 will be measured by Ghanaians in terms of their previous performance, their structural performance in the economy, and then also their policy advancement. And still, I will say that every single thing you do, this morning I've come here, the reception you have given me, one of the key factors of this reception for me to deliver is water. Is that correct? And it's showing on the table the evidence. There's no way you can hide away from Ghanaians this time without really doing what you say and doing it right for them to measure you. The same will be applied to the NDC in power. If we have not done well, Ghanaians will do us away. If we have done well, the evidence will be there in terms of growth, in terms of jobs, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of hospitals, among other things. So this time, it is not going to be like how we used to make political promises and we wouldn't do it. The fact is that Ghanaians will measure equitably in our delivery. Thank you.
Let me get onto the phone. Dr. Jonathan Asante Otchere is a political analyst with the University of Cape Coast, is joining us via the phone as well. Doc, I appreciate you for joining us this morning here on the 3FM Sunrise. We've seen the outcome of the regional executive elections. The party's flag bearer has been speaking as well and suggests that, look, the work begins now. Even though we have October 3 for national elections, the work begins now. Let's rally around, work towards victory come elections 2028. From a political analyst standpoint, seeing the results and how things played out, is that assertion accurate, and is the NPP ready now, at least partly, to begin to soldier on for elections 2028?
Yeah, Mawina, thank you. Let me say good morning to your listeners. Partly yes, partly no. Yes, in the sense that you have elected an individual in the person of Dr. Okoboy from Greater Accra. That, for me, is someone with clout, an indigene for that matter. Having been a minister, MP before, well, I think he's risen through the ranks and knows the nooks and crannies of the party, and so on and so forth. It's just that Greater Accra has not been the home of the MPP. By and large, if you look at the trajectory from 1992 to 2004, in terms of presidential elections, the MPP has won just 3 out of 9. So the MDC holds 3 different elections ahead of the NPP. So partially, you have to appreciate the fact that the MPP, the NDC can still call Greater Accra their home. Secondly, the Ashanti region, which is the hub of the party, virtually the fortunes of the party, are dwindling in terms of Ashanti region. Perhaps because of the politics of Mr. Wuntume. And that in itself has not really, resonated well with the grassroots of the party. If you look at the current trajectory and polls that have come up, it shows that the attraction of the youth is drifting away from the NPP to the NDC. And certain significant projects, once they are concluded, commissioned and they are in use, will not in any way inure to the favor of the NPP. And that in itself could equally affect the chances. So they are partly ready, partly they are not. But to the extent of electing Mr. Abronye, for me, they are not ready. Because his type of politics does not really resonate well with the generality of the populace. And so if the delegates have decided to re-elect him, either because he's a Bawumia boy or not, that for me is not sending the right message to the general populace. And it is a decision that the delegates have done. Leadership reflects the general, citizens. So that is the kind of individual that they want or they think will bring, goodies to the party. Because today you are holding just one constituency. He's lost the rest. So he did not deserve to be re-elected, unless maybe those who are contesting him were not solid enough. And that is my general view, what has transpired. But I must, congratulate them because they have done caritably well in holding the regional elections with less, trouble.
Right. That's an important point to make. But let's look at the Ashanti region for one, right? And the individual who is the regional chairman now, Koka. He's been around for quite some time, and even for the secretary position as well, is another individual who's been around for some time. The complaint was that, look, the Ashanti region did not turn up in the numbers as expected for the NPP during the 2024 elections. With the new leadership in charge, do we begin to see that turnaround, particularly for elections 2024? Remember, there's been general admissions from some persons as well that, look, the current regional minister, the mayor of Kumasi, amongst others, are posing quite the danger for the NPP in terms of how they are going about their activities. Does these elections, these individuals who've been elected, begin to wrestle the numbers out of the grips of the NDC, at least to a certain extent, because the NDC doesn't have to necessarily get 50% before they trouble the NPP in the Ashanti region?
Yeah. Human relation is the key. And then reassuring the people. So far, you mentioned two names, the mayor and then the regional minister. Fantastic individuals. The mayor is a disciplinarian. The regional minister is a human relation-centered individual. So if you combine the two, one ensuring that the development takes place, the other one ensuring that little things that human beings need, that human beings intend to relate to, they are taken care of. That in itself will inure to the benefit of the NDC. Now, COCA is the right decision because I said that on your TV that Saturday, yes, your sister station, the two regions that I commented, they won. I said that it is very wrong on part of the chief of staff of Dr. Bawumia, that is Osei and Saponso, to come out openly to support Dr. Kukufu. And that meant that they were expecting the Wontumi factor to play a card for Dr. Kukufu. I said that it was wrong because the support or the brand of Wontumi is tainted. And you do not expect the delegate to still be aligned with that particular tainted brand. And so even if they had decided to support him behind the scenes, that would have been better. But that being said, Coca, because he's been a perennial candidate, was going to get sympathy vote. And that is exactly what transpired, and he won. Coca's election is supposed to bring new verve, new energy into the Ashanti region. But I dare say that if the president is able to finish the project called Expressway from this Ablekuma to Kumasi or to the Ashanti region, I think the MPP should count out 2028 elections. They won't win. Because what NDC needs is a little over 30 or 30% in Ashanti region. The rest, they say, is history. So, in as much as his election is going to bring new energy, new verve, new enthusiasm, new momentum, and so on and so forth, it is an arduous task that has been, handed to Mr. Coca and even to Dr. Okoboy as well. These are the two main populated regions in this country. And so it is important you're able to control, right, the way and manner people, go about things and then how they are going to vote. And so, yes, it is okay that they have brought new faces in that place. They will be able to try and re-energize the grassroots, get the momentum. It is very easy to organize yourself very well when you are in opposition. So the other dynamics, fall on the party that is in government. How are you taking care of your people? There are some petty bickerings here and there internally. Because I said two main things that will make the NDC win or lose 2028. The legacy or the running of the economy under President Mahama. So far, the economy now and the economy then, which one is better? The economy now is by far better than the previous one. The second one is the transition. Who comes after Mr. Mahama? How they are going to conduct it will make or make the party. And we've seen it before. And so if at the end of the day, there is that natural understanding of those who lose and decide to fully support the very person who will have won, I think that the NPP under Bawumia will not be in a position to win the 2028 elections. Right. Finally, remember that there is this issue of Mr. Kenoforiata that is very political and financial. And it is not as though people have easily forgotten about what President Akufo-Addo did, for which reason Dr. Bawumia himself was part. So there are some individuals, what they've done in the past, and what they are going to tell us today or tomorrow, people will compare that with what they did when they were in government and what they said to Dr. Bawumia. If they are controverted, then obviously it is still going to affect his credibility. That credibility crisis that he's been suffering or he suffered in the 2024 elections is not gone yet. It is a tag that is hanging around him. So it is only when the NDC performs abysmally than what they inherited from the MPP, that is the only point the MPP can be asked to come back.
Right then. Doc, I got the indication you have to leave us shortly. Just on Greater Accra and Okoboy, because we saw that along the coast, particularly, almost all of the seats went to the NDC. Now we're seeing an indigent proper, if we can call it that, coming in. Outside of winning the general elections as well, there's a factor as to seats being won, amongst other things. How does that translate, possibly, into swaying a bit more of indigents to want to pick NPP persons into parliament? An example being the Greater Accra region.
Well, I mean, the MPship, it is very competitive. You need the resources. Greater Accra has become more cosmopolitan than any, region in this country. So sometimes it is very difficult to get the indigents to come up, unless maybe there is that affirmative action on the part of the party to indigenize some of the areas. When you do that, it could be seen as an affront to the constitutional dictate and so on and so forth. So certain things will have to be done silently behind the scenes. You may do that by machinating, but without necessarily incurring the displeasure, of other demographics. It is important, especially in the coastal areas where indigenous people dominate, that you should have one of their own leading. So I think that with the President Dr. Okoboy, if he is so solid and convinced about the need to have some of these indigenous people elected in those areas, it will help, because sometimes it goes to the extent that people can easily identify their own. Tribal politics, yes, it happens, but it happens silently. There are many people who may identify themselves with a political party just because they feel at home with that. So you cannot blame the Asante that they are mostly MPP. Neither can you blame the others that they are mostly NDC. It is because they feel at home with these two, main parties. But you look at the trajectory for politics, migrations here and there. I mean, can you even know the percentage in terms of Greater Accra population who are indigenous and that of settlers who are controlling the economy of Greater Accra, if you ask me? And so it's an obvious task, but they can really start from somewhere. You see, chiefs cannot engage in partisan politics, but they throw in jabs here and there with respect to the questions that you are asking. So if they have done it over the period and they've not been able to win the seats in terms of majority, what stops them from changing? They can try it for once and see how that would equally help. It doesn't spoil anything. But obviously there will be a mixture of the various, tribes in this country that will emerge in Greater Accra constituencies. But you know that in terms of the coastal areas, it is dominated more by the indigenous people. So if you so desire that you need some of these indigenous people to hold the affairs of these constituencies, I think that in itself could be a good call. But remember, it is a competition. So you have to compete to win. And if you don't have the resources, no matter the good intention, it is not going to work.
Right. Doc, I appreciate you for making time to speak to us this morning.
Yeah, welcome.
That's Dr. Jonathan Asante Otchere, is a political analyst, joining us on the phone line this morning. I'm going to come to you, Prosper, and then before I go to Doc, because this is more internal party matters than any other thing. You've had Doc for some time. Says that, look, it's going to be a Herculean task for the NPP, even with the new faces, because it has to take extreme mismanagement to a certain extent before the NPP can take advantage. I mean, how do you respond?
But this is the same Doc who some months ago sat on Onya TV and said that we going by the top-down approach to produce a democratically elected tyrant as a leader, as a flag bearer. I don't think that's what we are having now. Today, he's telling us that when NDC completes the expressway, the NPP should forget the election 2028. So what if they don't complete it? Meanwhile, there is 70% of the Accra-Kumasi highway has been completed. It's left with 30%. He is not advocating for that to be completed. But his interest is in that NDC should be able to complete the expressway, and that will not give MPP a chance to win the election 2028. You see, I have tried so much to focus on basically the internal elections we have had and the questions you are asking thereof. The diversion or the peripheral arguments the NDC rep is making about the economy and the performance and issues about policy, I don't think it's something that I'll fall for. But if briefly, I may have to how do you call it, feel this ignorance about some of these things. If you tell me that you are performing better, even on the issue of KFC, I just indicated that about 38%, that's 12 million of our population are facing food insecurity. It's an increase from what you guys came to meet. Today, food was expensive. That's what you guys came to meet. So if there's a topic for discussion, please, let's focus on the topic. Then Doc also spoke about Ken Ofori-Atta. I don't think Doc is in the country. When NDC lost the 2016 election by close to 1 million votes. 2020, they beat it down to about 500,000. Said Nam Tamaklo was not in this country, but they were able to do it. When you are campaigning to citizens to vote for you, it's about what you can do and what they believe you'll be able to do for them. Over this weekend, I was at a breed in the Eastern region, the Otchere constituency in the Eastern region. Their functioning market has been demolished for a 24-hour economy market, and it's been months now. The government is not constructing. People there, these are the things they'll look out for and they'll vote. So you're not going to sit here and make some of these frivolous arguments there. And all apologies to Doc. I don't buy some of these things because he even sat on one station and said that the increase in fuel prices as a result of the MPP's mishaps. Some of these arguments, when you begin to make them, people begin to tag you or watch you in a particular spectacle, which is not fine. You shouldn't be doing some of these things. See,
so you disagree?
I disagree entirely with him. On some of this, virtually everything he has said. We have elected our executives. We believe that we'll be able to marshal the forces for us to win the election 2028. Dr. Okoboy, like you said, is a proper indigene. I believe that looking back, we had Mr. Ishmael Ashite, who was also a proper indigene, who helped us win the 2016 election, and it was from Greater Accra. We won more seats here in Greater Accra. I believe Dr. Okoboy will be able to fit into that shoes and help us win that election. So basically, that's what I have to say. Bringing in some of these things, if you have to look at economic indicators and trying to rope it into the fact that we've elected leaders, we may be able to do that. But today's topic is not for that. If you have to look at that, we'll go proper into it. You've not been able to pay NADMO workers for 13 months. Teachers are suffering. They've not been paid. If you have to look at that thing, we are diverting from the topic for which you've called us to come and discuss here. And I may not want to fall for that bit. So, yes, you may give me the time to speak and you may want to rebut, but if it goes on that tangent, I'll also be able to go on similar tangent. And it's not good for the show. Listeners are listening based on the topic you've presented for us to discuss. If you want to divert into other things, right, I may be able to go that. Because newspaper review, you guys were discussing about some of these things, fuel prices. And I was also listening to Patrice, your other colleague that left here, and he was talking about Chemawun Tumi's integrity. I found it very, very offensive. You know why I find it very, very offensive? Chemawun Tumi was just convicted a few weeks ago. He won us the 2016 election. He won us the 2020 election. Patrice is trying to cast aspersions on the delegates in Ashanti region who elected Chemawun Tumi about Chemawun Tumi's integrity. Some of these things, when you do, it's not right. It's not right, and we shouldn't be doing some of these things. I will be able to cast aspersions on every executive of the NDC based on my understanding of some of the things they've done. If issues are there for proper discussion, let's focus on the issue. Onto Chairman Wuntumi's incarceration, will he be able to sit here to talk about Chairman Wuntumi's integrity? And people also raising issues about Abronye. I heard Doc raise the issue about Abronye. Every politics is local. The delegates in the region, they believe that Abronye will be able to help the party win power. He has done it before, and they believe that, yes, things didn't go right in the 2024 election, but when we give him the opportunity, he may be able to right the wrongs. You don't going to sit here and say that because Abronye has been elected, that's the offside of it. Who are you to determine how the delegates in the region who understand the politics better than you in the region, who they should elect? They should elect person to your whims and caprices as to against what they believe will be able to help us win election. No. You may be able to raise your point, but when you bring to tag someone and begin to look at him as Abronye as who? You may have issues with some of the things he does there, but down there, the people love him, and that's why they voted for him. You saw the margin, some of the people were getting 0. He had about 221. The closest to him had about 44 or so. So that should tell you that he's not a small force in the region there. He's a big force.
Right.
And this has nothing to do with Dr. Bawumia. I gave indication that his spokesperson, Dr. Gideon Boaku, was in Ashanti region campaigning for Kuka. If there are other elements close to the flag bearer who were also campaigning for Wuku, it doesn't show how to get disaffection. It shows that, yes, there is a free will for everyone to campaign. And it goes to defeat what Doc mentioned, that electing from the top-down approach will present the NPP with a tyrant as leader. How we have people close to the flag bearer choosing who they want to support for the regional election. I'm sure same is being applied in the national election. How does that give indication that we've elected a tyrant as a democratically elected a tyrant as a flag bearer? Some of these things we shouldn't be making this
Fair point, Prosper. Helen, you had wanted to come in briefly before I go to...
I almost changed my mind, but I just wanted to say, in terms of broadening the scope of the conversation, I don't think it's too far-fetched for us to talk about, what might transpire in 2028.
Because, this is all in relation to what happens in 2028.
We know that you're putting these measures in place as a party to lace your boots towards 2028. So I didn't think it was too far-fetched for us to bring some of these elements in. By all means, rebuttals are allowed.
That's fair. Yes. If you look at that, you have to look at the individuals that have been elected. If you have to look at that, you need to look at the individuals that have been elected. Some of the people who have been elected, who government positions. Kuka, for instance, wasn't an appointee of the previous government. So if you have to measure Kuka, what are you going to measure him with? You measure Kuka with a different yardstick, and when you go to another region, you're going to measure someone with another yardstick. It doesn't hold. If you are to look at a regional election, you are measuring everyone. There should be the same standard for measurement. You don't go and measure Kuka by a different standard. They want to measure another one by a different standard. You are looking at Okobo and you say he was a former deputy minister. Because he was a former deputy minister, he was a former MP, his measurement should be different as against that of Kuka, as against that of Abronye. No, it shouldn't be fair. When we are measuring someone, the standard of measurement should be the same across the region. Right. That's what I have to say.
Fair. Doc, I'm going to come to you because we're almost out of time in reacting to a fair few of the things, and then because this will be a contest between the NPP and the NDC more often than not, the other political parties. But hey, if the trajectory of the Fourth Republic is anything to go by, we know that it always comes down to the two of you.
I just want to have a reaffirmation from him whether he thinks that I'm ignorant of what I'm saying. I want to let him know that experience also counts, and he's too jittery and passionate about politics, the words of politics, that he feels that people should support every single thing that MPP does is okay. That is not how politics work, with my experience. He's a young man. That is not how it works. Wait, you said I'm ignorant. I didn't stop. When you were talking, I didn't talk. Keep quiet. Please, keep quiet.
Respectfully, let me
get that time.
You don't have to interact me.
Doc, let's let me tell you. Let's not do personal attacks.
Experience have shown clearly
to speak
that before we even do analysis, there should be a standpoint where you can make references to certain issues. If you don't know, I'm telling you, you cannot say that I'm ignorant. If I'm ignorant, the great party NDC will not put me on this show. I want to let you know.
That's his ignorance.
And yes,
I said to feed his ignorance on that particular subject.
Please keep quiet. Keep quiet.
That's fair.
You are temperamental, and I'm giving it back to you that what you were saying.
Let's just try and we've had the microphones are off, right? We've had a very healthy conversation up until now. In fairness, he didn't speak in fairness. Doc, the microphone is off. I'm trying to just make a point that in fairness, he didn't call you ignorant. He was speaking and says to feed on ignorance. Yes. So
I just said feed on ignorance. I said to feed on ignorance.
So you can react to that in fairness, right? But I just want us to do this very nicely because we started very well, so that we can all end. So you have the floor, Doc.
Have I spoken badly about the MPP?
No, I'm just saying let's
I was
proceed.
making my point. And the listeners are listening. You understand? You cannot stop me from making a reference. That is what I want him to know. Well, I will say that these are internal elections. I completely have stated here that we are ever prepared in 2028. Whatever technical or strategic means they have used, the NDC will win 2028 election. That's all.
Briefly,
that's why it ends.
Yeah, if I may. You see, I don't like the situation where you may want to police someone that the person is young. This whole thing about you are young, you don't do politics like that, is very, very offensive. It's very, very offensive because you believe NDC has elected you, you've been doing politics over 30 years. MP has also appointed me to come and sit on this show. If you believe you are too old as me to sell, I'm also very young to come and sit on this show. Some of these things you shouldn't be doing. No, but I'm just saying. I need to emphasize.
If he makes that point, I mean, the response should not come in that
No,
line.
but for you to say that because I'm young and some of these things, it doesn't help. It doesn't help.
And that's a fair point.
Yes.
That's a fair point to make.
And I also didn't say it's
once you are both on the platform, you are of equal
standing,
and you can speak to matters of that.
I didn't say it's ignorant.
But I appreciate you both.
That's fair.
I appreciate you both for coming. And Dr. Julius Carter is a member of the NDC's National Communications team. He joined us in studio this morning as we discussed very important matters in relation to society. And then Prosper Nati as well, a member of the NPP's National Communications team.